Good evening and welcome to First Baptist Church Wednesday night Bible study. I could swear I had that thing put together already. We're glad to have you tonight. We start out with a couple of praise songs that hopefully you'll already know so you can sing right along with us if I can get you to stand. If I falter, Lord, who cares? Who with me my burden shares? None but Thee, dear Lord, none but Thee. Just a closer walk with Thee.
Just a closer walk, just a closer walk.
Granted, Jesus is my plea.
Just a closer walk, just a closer walk.
Daily walking close to Thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. When my feeble life is old, time for me will be no more. Guide me gently, safely on to Thy kingdom shore, to Thy shore. Just a closer walk with Thee.
Just a closer walk, just a closer walk.
Granted, Jesus is my plea.
Just a closer walk, just a closer walk.
Daily walking close to Thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Amen. I don't know if this is older than that one or newer than that one. It's pretty old, but it's a good one. As I travel through this pilgrim land, there is a friend who walks with me, leads me safely through the sinking sand. It is the Christ of Calvary. This would be my prayer to Lord each day, to help me do the best I can. For I need thy light to guide me day and night. Blessed Jesus, hold my hand. Blessed Jesus, hold my hand. Yes, I need thee every hour. Through this pilgrim land, protect me by thy side. Hear my feeble plea, oh Lord, look down on me. When I kneel in prayer, I hold him in there. Blessed Jesus, hold my hand. Let me travel in the light divine, that I may see the blessed way. Keep me that I may be wholly thine, and sing redemption song each day. I will be a soldier brave and true, and ever firmly take a stand. As I onward go and daily meet the foe, blessed Jesus, hold my hand. Jesus, hold my hand. Yes, I need every hour. Through this pilgrim land, protect me thy power. Hear my plea, oh Lord, down on me. When I kneel in prayer, I hold him in there. Blessed Jesus, hold my hand. When I kneel in prayer, I hold him in there. Blessed Jesus, hold my hand. Amen. Have a seat.
All right, good evening. Am I coming through? Did I do it right? Yep. Okay, there we are. Okay. Hey, how y'all doing? That's good. I'm glad that y'all are here. And we're going to continue through Jeremiah. If you got your Bibles open up there, we're going to be in chapter 8. No, not 8. Y'all did 8 last week. We're going to be in chapter 9 this week. I wonder if I started teaching on 8, how long would y'all let me go before y'all would interrupt me? I'm glad you're here. If you haven't been here, we're going through the Bible, just straight through. And so clearly we are in Jeremiah now. We are headfirst into the prophets, which gets a little dreary. One of the first times that I went through Jeremiah in particular, it was probably 2013, 2014. I have my old Bible. And I started color coding all the words, and so each color stood for a different thing. So red usually meant like here's what you don't do, or here's like the judgment that's coming upon you. Yellow is usually about the gospel. Blue is usually about something that God is doing. Green is about what we're called to do. And I get through Jeremiah, and just page after page after page is just red, just judgment. Doing what you're not supposed to do, all that. So it's going to be more of that tonight. So glad that you're here. We're going through Jeremiah. Just a little bit of a recap just so you know what's going on with it. We went through Isaiah, and Isaiah didn't just solely pronounce judgment on the northern kingdom of Israel, but that was a lot of his main focus was the northern kingdom of Israel, and it kind of went to the outskirts around them as well. And primarily depicting, hey Josh, I'm bringing back just a tiny bit. The northern kingdom of Israel is pronouncing judgment that there's going to be a kingdom that comes and takes them out. Who was that kingdom that took out the northern kingdom of Israel? Assyria, right. And so that happens in, I think, like the 700s BC. Then we've got Jeremiah. Jeremiah's focus is primarily on the southern kingdom of Judah, and that's primarily because the northern kingdom of Israel is no longer a thing, right? Assyria already took them out. They're already scattered about. So this is in like the 600 BC, late 500s BC. And a lot of his predictions are about the coming destruction on the southern kingdom of Judah, which nation is that's going to take them over? Babylon, right? And so just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It hasn't happened yet, but he's starting to talk about it in that. Okay, chapter 9, Jeremiah, let's get into it. I'm hoping to cover 2 chapters tonight, but we'll see in that. Chapter 9. If my head were a flowing spring, my eyes a fountain of tears, I would weep day and night over the slain of my dear people. If I had only had a traveler's lodging place in the wilderness, I would abandon my people and depart from them, for they are all adulterers and a solemn assembly of treacherous people. Y'all see the 2 things holding in tandem right there? It's weird because he opens up with, I'm just mourning all day over my people. And then at the same time he says, but I want to get away from them because they're the worst, right? He's holding those 2 things pretty much all throughout Jeremiah. Jeremiah, the quote-unquote, the weeping prophet, is holding those 2 things in tandem. It's like, man, I deeply mourn over my people, but at the same time, I can't stand them because they're rejecting God so much. And so we see this open up here. Now, there's going to be a couple of themes that open up throughout Jeremiah chapter 9 that I want you to be on the lookout for. One of them is going to be weeping and mourning. We're going to see that play out. And the other one, I'll mention it when I get there. But we open up with weeping and mourning. Who is weeping and mourning so far? Jeremiah, right? Keep that in mind. Jeremiah is weeping and mourning. All right, verse 3. They bent their tongues like bows. Who's the they? Sorry? Judah. Yeah, technically Judah. If you said Israel, you're kind of half right because they use their broad scale, they're Israel, but specifically Judah, which was part of Israel. So Judah, they bent their tongues like their bows. Lies and not faithfulness prevail in the land, for they proceed from one evil to another. They do not take me into account. This is the Lord's declaration. And so he's kind of starting to introduce this concept of evil is spreading in the land, and they just go from one evil to another. And the culmination of that is say, they do not take me into account. Now, some of your translations, when it says do not take me into account, it mentions they do not know me, says the Lord. And this was a big kind of sticking point, started in Isaiah, continues in Jeremiah, it's going to continue through a lot of the prophets, is this concept of knowing God. I've taught on this one time on Sunday morning, that Paul picks up on that concept and inserts it into his letters in the New Testament because he's constantly praying for the churches to have a growing knowledge in God. He's almost taken the reverse effect. So the prophets were always talking about you don't know God, and that's the reason that things are going to go downhill. Paul takes kind of the positive approach of know God, like grow in your knowledge of God, and that's going to grow in all these other things. That's the second theme that we're going to see throughout here. So there's going to be a theme of weeping and mourning. There's also going to be a theme of knowing God. And so the evil that they descend into is because they do not take me into account, take God into account. They do not know God in that. Verse 4. Everyone has to be on guard against his friend. Don't trust any brother, for every brother will certainly deceive, and every friend spreads slander. Each one betrays his friend. No one tells the truth. They have taught their tongues to speak lies. They wear themselves out doing wrong. Which is interesting, right? That's an interesting way to say it. Like they're doing so much wrong that they're just wearing themselves out overall. So far, what's the big sin that he's describing here? Deceiving, deception. Yeah, turning against one another. It's interesting, like this group of evil that's been built up in Judah isn't focused on their enemies. Who's it focused on? Each other. Anytime you have a group of evil, it usually starts, like a group of people who do evil things, it usually starts with a common enemy, but after a while, what happens? They start to turn on themselves, and that's why it's really, be really careful who your friends are. If you build friends off of gossip, what's going to eventually happen? You're just going to turn on each other, right? You're just going to start to gossip about each other. Don't be surprised when that happens because that's what you've built a relationship on in that. And so if a city is built on evil, don't be surprised when that city starts to turn on itself and do evil to each other. Verse 6, you live in a world of deception. In their deception, they refuse to know me. This is the Lord's declaration. Here again, we have this know me kind of concept here. And so it's not just that they don't know about God. It's not just that they're ignorant. It's that they refuse to know God. It's like they're taking an active stance against God here in that. Verse 7, this is what the Lord of armies says. I am about to refine them and test them. For what else can I do because of my dear people? How many of you have kids in the room? Okay, most of you do. How many of you have little kids? Well, no, okay. How many of you have kids that just live with you? Right? My son is just turned 4 years old. My daughter is 6 years old. And believe it or not, a lot of y'all know them, believe it or not, they don't always obey, right? Say it ain't so, yeah. When we talk to their teachers, they're always like, oh my gosh, they were so good. And I'm like, I'm glad they're good for you because they're not good for me all the time. And so there's times that they don't always obey. They're great kids, by the way. But there's times that they don't always obey. And we'll try. We'll try to work with them. They're like, hey, you need to do this. And we'll correct them, pull them back. It's like, okay, you can't have this for a while. And they're like, okay, go send time out over here. And we're like, we'll try and try and try all these things. And every now and then, when they just don't obey, I'll just sit down with them and be like, what do you want me to do? It's like what is going to work with you? Because what I'm trying clearly is not working. And so I'm bringing you in on the discipline process. What's going to work with you in that? And I almost see that doing, like God is doing the same thing here. He's tried and tried and tried and tried again, and it's just not working. So he says, I'm about to refine them and test them. For what else can I do because of my dear people? It's like, what's going to work with you guys? Now, here's the interesting thing, is that in the midst of all of their rebellion, in the midst of God trying and trying and trying again, what does he do? I'm about to refine them. I'm about to test them. He's giving them another opportunity. We see this explained in Romans, particularly like 9, 10, 11. There's this kind of conversation about what's going on with the Jews, like what's going on with Israel. And there's this long thought that Paul's explaining here about why Israel is rejecting the Messiah and what is their current state and how does this incorporate the Gentiles and all that. And within this, in chapter 10, Paul goes on this explanation of how God, over time, over and over and over and over again, tried with Israel. Over and over again. They just rejected him over and over and over again. And at the end of this big discourse, Paul quotes Isaiah 65, and he says, let me just read it so I don't misstate it. This is Romans 10, chapter 21, where he quotes Isaiah 65. He says, but to Israel, God says, all day long I have held out my hands to a disobedient and a defiant people. And they just reject him over and over again. But I find it interesting that even in the midst of all the rejection, he continually gives them chances to refine, chances to test. For you Bible scholars in the room, what is the number one adjective way that God described Israel? Y'all know? Stiff-necked people. Like people that just would not budge on their sin and what they were doing. But God still gives them chances in that. Verse 7, therefore this is what the Lord of armies says, I'm about to refine them and test them, for what else can I do because of my dear people? Their tongues are deadly arrows, they speak deception. With his mouth one speaks peaceably with his friend, but inwardly he sets up an ambush. Should I not punish them for these things? This is the Lord's declaration. Should I not avenge myself on such a nation as this? This is interesting. This is what I call a judgment sandwich. Here, because it opens up with, hey, I'm about to refine you and test you, and then it explains why, and then it closes with, yeah, I'm about to judge you in that. So it's like instead of a compliment sandwich, it's a judgment sandwich. I like it. Now, within this judgment sandwich, that he gives the reasoning for the judgment. What is it? This is verse 8. Their tongues are deadly arrows. They speak deception. With his mouth, one speaks peaceably with his friend, but inwardly he sets up an ambush. So here's the reason for this major judgment coming upon the southern kingdom of Judah. What's the reason? What's the sin? deceit, lying. Don't y'all find that interesting? It's like it's their speech, it's their lying, their deceit, their backstabbing. That's the main sin that's being quoted here that's bringing about ultimately the destruction of Jerusalem and the disbanding of the nation of Judah. Why that? Like, why not killing? Why not cheating the poor or not taking care of those who don't need or who need help? Or why not adultery? Like, why is it deception that gets into that? I find that interesting. And what it points out to is this, is that what we say and the integrity that we have is so important to God. We've talked about this before, that there are so many verses in the Bible. There's a good chunk of Proverbs is about the speech that we say, about the words that we say, because our words matter. What we say matters. Our integrity matters. Here, it's not just deception that's going on. It's one speaks peaceably with his friend, but inwardly he sets up an ambush. So it's not just you're doing bad things. It's that you're convincing people that you're friends with them and that you're on their side, and then you betray them. It's like that gets into a whole nother level of immorality in that. If we were to back it up into where he expands on this more, this is like verse 4, 5, and 6, where he's talking about brothers deceive each other, friends betray each other, and so it's one thing to do it to your enemies. That's still not good to do it to your enemies, but you're doing it to your own friends here. Like there's a level of immorality that's going down in this. When I read this, it reminded me of Proverbs 27:6. It says this: "Faithful are the wounds of a friend, profuse are the kisses of an enemy." And so be careful to have people who will butter you up and then backstab you. That's basically what that's saying. It's like you'd rather have people... Roxanne, are you demonstrating what that is? Roxanne's like, that's Chris's favorite verse. He just likes to stab people to their face. It's like, find people who are willing to say hard things to you rather than lie to your face and then talk about you behind your back, basically, in that. But it ends, this judgment sandwich, verse 9 ends with this: "Should I not punish them for these things?" This is the Lord's declaration. "Should I not avenge myself on a nation such as this?" Two questions presented. Should I not punish them? The answer says yes, a rhetorical yes, because they've done evil and God is holy and just, right? The second question is, should I not avenge myself on such a nation as this? And that gets a little bit more complex of a question, because why use that language here? Because this is Judah, which is a subset of Israel, God's chosen people. And what was the point of God's chosen people? To share God with the world, right? It goes all the way back to Abraham in chapter 12. When he started Israel with Abraham, he said, "I will make you a blessing, and through you all the nations of the earth will be blessed." It's, "I will bless you, you bless the world. I reveal myself to you, you reveal me to the world." And so in a world of darkness, Israel was supposed to be this beacon of light that revealed God to the world. That didn't happen, right? If you remember in Isaiah, when we went through Isaiah, a lot of the language in Isaiah, they would use vineyard language, that Israel was supposed to be this vineyard that produced fruit in it, but it didn't, and it just produced thorns and thickets instead. It's just constantly getting into what Israel was supposed to do, they didn't do. And not only is that counterproductive to the plan of God, because God was to be revealed through them, but it's actually opposite of that. They did the exact opposite, because they still bear the name of God, right? Their nation was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so everyone's looking to Israel to see, okay, who is this God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And instead of being a light, they are darkness, right? And so you have a profound misappropriation of the name of God by them, which is like a third commandment violation, right? It's like, don't take the Lord's name in vain. I think that verse or that commandment has much more to do than just using God's name flippantly. It's about don't take something that is not of God and slap God's name on it, right? Because that's a profound misuse of God's name. It's a misrepresentation of God's name. And that's what was going on with Israel. They were supposed to bear the name of God and reveal it to the world, and they did the opposite, yet kept the name of God on there. And so he asked the question, should I avenge myself in this? Because y'all are misrepresenting me to the world. And all of your evil and deception, y'all are doing the opposite of what y'all are supposed to do on my behalf in that. And the rhetorical answer to that is yes. In that. Verse 10, I will raise weeping and a lament over the mountains. Okay, here's that reintroduction of weeping. Oh, by the way, any questions so far? I like to just go and go and go, but I forget to stop. Any thoughts, questions? Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much. Yeah, the deception. Get really close and then deceive and betray. Yeah. Yep. Any other thoughts, questions? Okay, so we're getting back into, or we're revisiting this weeping theme here. I will raise weeping and lament over the mountains. Who's the I here? God, right? I will raise weeping and lament over the mountains. Now, here's kind of how it's presented so far. So far at the beginning, you have weeping on the account of Jeremiah and God, and you have deception, and I'm going to presume no weeping and humility on the account of Israel, or Judah, more specifically. And here in verse 10, God is like, I'm about to change this. You don't want to weep and mourn over your sin. I'm going to make you weep and mourn. It's going to happen. And you're not going to like it. All right, let's get to it. Verse 10, I will raise weeping and a lament over the mountains, a dirge over the wilderness grazing land. Dirge is just like a funeral song. Like a lament is like a song that they would sing over their sadness, and a dirge is just another word for that. So I will raise weeping and lament over the mountains, a dirge over the wilderness grazing land, for they have been so scorched that no one passes through. The sound of cattle is no longer heard. From the birds of the sky to the animals, everything has fled. They have all gone away. I will make Jerusalem a heap of rubble, a jackal's den. I will make the cities of Judah a desolation, an uninhabited place. What's he describing here? The destruction? Yeah, destruction of Jerusalem. Yeah. And we know that this happens, right? Like 586, 587 BC, Babylon comes in and wipes Jerusalem out and leads them into exile. And this is God saying, yeah, this is going to happen. Everything that was there is going to be gone in that. And in that destruction, there will then be weeping and there will be lament. And this ties into similar things that Jesus said in the New Testament. So in the New Testament, there's this kind of like contrast between exaltation and humility. Pastor Lee talked about this a few weeks ago, if you remember, on Sunday morning, where Jesus said, those who humble themselves before God, God will exalt. And those who exalt themselves before God, God will humble in that. And you almost have that going on here. It's like you have your sin and you're not humble in your sin. You should be mourning over your sin and repenting, but you're not. You're carrying on as is. So because you won't weep and mourn over your sin, I will bring you to weeping and mourning over your destruction in that. And so it's the thing of repent while you have time, because destruction will come upon you if you don't. Now for us, does that mean that God's going to come wipe out your house? Probably not. It probably, more long-term, like spiritually speaking, if you don't repent of your sin and come before God humbly, then, eternity is a long time to not be in heaven. Okay. Verse 12. Who is the person wise enough to understand this? Who has the Lord spoken to that he might explain it? Why is the land destroyed and scorched like a wilderness so that no one can pass through? All these are rhetorical questions that God is like, don't answer. I'm going to answer it for you. Verse 13, the Lord said, "It is because they abandoned my instruction, which I set before them, and did not obey my voice or walk according to it. Instead, their ancestors taught." Oh, I jumped a thing. "Instead, they followed the stubbornness of their hearts and followed the Baals as their ancestors taught them. Therefore, this is what the Lord of armies, the God of Israel, says. I am about to feed this people wormwood and give them poisonous water to drink. I will scatter them among the nations that they and their ancestors have not known. I will send a sword after them until I have finished them off." So this is basically God reiterating, like if he hasn't been explicit yet, he's being explicit now. Why are you being judged? It's because you have just outright refused to obey what I've given you. You've rejected me. You've gone your own way. You've kept worshiping pagan idols that I told you to get rid of. You didn't get rid of it. You kept them around, and now judgment's coming in on this. He makes a statement, just a side note, of like, because this is a prophet, and so let's talk about prophecy here for a second. He makes the statement, verse 16, "I will scatter them among the nations that they and their ancestors have not known." That happened, right? So again, they're in Jerusalem, which was in the southern region of Judah. So Babylon, which is to the east, never eat soggy watermelon. Is that what y'all use to keep your north, east, southwest? So they're to the east, and they come up through the north around the Euphrates, come down from the north, tear down Jerusalem, and they take all the inhabitants and then exile them in a reverse path all the way back to Babylon. And that's where they reside for the next, almost 100 years until the Persian king allows them to come back. And so this prophecy right here is, I'm going to scatter them among the nations that they've never been before. That's exactly what happens. Jerusalem's destroyed, and they get scattered out to Babylon in that. Let's back up one more sentence. Therefore, this is verse 15. "Therefore, this is what the Lord of armies, the God of Israel, says. I'm about to feed this people wormwood and give them poisonous water to drink." Wormwood was like a bitter plant that they would have, and God often used this as judgment language. I think it's multiple times in Jeremiah. I think it's a couple times in Isaiah, and maybe one time in one of the minor prophets. I can't remember. But it's commonly a sign of judgment. Now, is it literal? Maybe. I don't know. But it's meant to be a sign of judgment that, hey, this is something bad coming upon you. Where in the New Testament does wormwood get mentioned? Does anyone know? Revelation. Yeah. In Revelation, in the third trumpet, it says that a falling star comes down, hits the earth, and this falling star is personified as wormwood. And so in your Bibles where it says wormwood, it's not lowercase wormwood, it's uppercase wormwood, as like this is a personified name of someone in that. I personally think it's a fallen angel, but this isn't a Revelation study. And so you have Revelation that takes this Old Testament judgment language and then personifies it and escalates it to a global level in that. Just fun facts for you in that. Okay, any thoughts, questions? Hopefully not about Revelation. Okay. Verse 17. I got to hurry. I want to get through 2 chapters. Verse 17. This is what the Lord of armies says. Consider this is great. This is what the Lord of armies says. Consider and summon the women who mourn. I find it interesting that's women, not men. But apparently these were, some people reference this as professional mourners. Okay, you'll see what they do. Okay, consider and summon the women who mourn. Send for the skillful women. Let them come quickly to raise a lament over us, so that our eyes may overflow with tears, our eyelids be soaked with weeping. Here again is that weeping theme. So we've talked earlier, at the beginning, you have Jeremiah and God weeping over Israel, or Judah. Then you have in the middle where it says, hey, if you're not going to weep, I'm going to make you weep through the destruction of Jerusalem. So again, that's a future event. And here it's like, okay, let's see if we can weep before that takes place. So he's like, okay, gather women, skillful women, professional mourners to come in, and they're going to teach you how to mourn. Now, it's really interesting what happens with this. Verse 19, for a sound of lamentation is heard from Zion. How devastated we are greatly ashamed, for we have abandoned the land, our dwellings have been torn down. Verse 20, now hear the word of the Lord, you women, the women that are supposed to teach them to mourn. Pay attention to the words from his mouth. Teach your daughters a lament and one another a dirge. Again, those are just like funeral songs. For death has climbed through our windows, has entered our fortresses, cutting off children from the streets, young men from the squares. So he's telling these women who are supposed to come in and teach everyone to mourn, he's like, go teach them a funeral song, a dirge, and then he says, I'm going to give you the words of the song. Here's the words of the song, verse 22. You ready for it? Speak as follows. This is what the Lord declares. Human corpses will fall like manure on the surface of the field, like newly cut grain after the reaper with no one to gather it. What a song. Man, Roxanne, can you put that to music and sing that on Sunday? Yeah. Did anyone grow up on a farm? My grandpa had cattle. And has anyone watched cattle whenever they relieve themselves? It's like, yeah. That's what I think about. Because that's what it's saying. It's graphic, yes. But this is what God's doing. Human corpses will fall like manure on the surface of the ground. God does not pull his punches whenever bringing judgment upon Israel and in the language that he uses in that. I just find that interesting that this is the song that he's calling the women of Judah to teach the daughters in that. All right, let's keep going. Verse 23. This is what the Lord says. The wise person should not boast in his wisdom. The strong should not boast in their strength. The wealthy should not boast in his wealth. Three things that people typically boast in back then, even boast in now. Wisdom, strength, and wealth. All these are good things, and this is what we all aspire to. We all want to live wisely into our life. We all want to have strength. We all want to be healthy in our lives and have strength in our lives. We all want to be wealthy, or at the very least, we want to be comfortable, right? Like no one wants to suffer in their finances and what they do. And all three of these things aren't bad things, but God here is saying, don't boast in these three things. They're just not good things to place your hope in, because all three of these things are going to fail. Like your wisdom, every single one of our minds are going to get less sharp as we get older, unfortunately. Every single one of our strength and our health is going to deteriorate as we get older. Every single one of us, we could be the richest person in the world. You could be Bill Gates. You could be, he's not the richest. It's Elon. Elon's the richest guy, right? No? You could be Elon Musk. But the amount, the $1 trillion that he has will not keep him alive a day longer than God allows him to stay alive, right? And then when he dies, what happens to all that money? He doesn't get to take it with him. So all these things aren't bad things. They're just not good things to place your hope in, right? It's just not good things to boast in. What is a good thing to boast in? Verse 24. But the one who boasts should boast in this, that he understands and knows me. Here's the know theme that we talked about earlier, right? So it talked what is the root of all of their problems? Is that they do not know God and they refuse to know God. What is the solution to all their problems? To know and understand God. That's what they should boast in that. And then we see the resulting effects of that here. So, but the one who boasts should boast in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord, showing faithful love, justice, righteousness on earth, for I delight in these things. This is the Lord's declaration. And so we've got almost a contrast here that on this side, they refuse to know God, which leads to deception and corruption and backstabbing and you name it, evil, which leads to the destruction of their nation, right? On this side here, you know God, which leads to faithful love, to justice, to righteousness, and delight from God in the things that are going on. These are the two contrasts here in that. Verse 25, look, the days are coming. This is the Lord's declaration, when I will punish all of the circumcised, yet uncircumcised. That's an interesting statement right there. I will punish all the circumcised, yet uncircumcised. I'm not going to give you an explanation on what circumcision is. You can Google that. Well, maybe don't Google it. Just don't Google image it. Okay, so this is a common concept all across the Bible. So you have circumcision that God gave as a covenant promise or a covenant symbol to Israel, that they were to physically circumcise themselves, to set themselves apart from the pagan nations in that. However, all throughout the Old Testament and into the New Testament, it was explicitly mentioned that there is a greater circumcision that you need to do beyond the physical circumcision. What is that? Anyone know? Circumcision of the heart. Moses in Deuteronomy says that you need to circumcise your heart and not be stubborn or something like that, along those lines. Paul digs into this in Romans 3. Is it 3? I think it's 3. Talking about your circumcision, your physical circumcision amounts to nothing if you don't have circumcision of the heart. That there are people who are not physically circumcised, yet follow God, and they're circumcised in the eyes of God. Yet you who are physically circumcised that don't follow God are not circumcised in the eyes of God. Does that make sense in that? And he goes far enough to say this, is that those who are circumcised of the heart are Jewish, right? And so you can be circumcised in a Jew, but if you're not circumcised in the heart, then you're not a Jew. Like he goes that far enough to say that. And that's basically what he says here as well in this. So I will punish all the circumcised yet uncircumcised. And then he gives a list of nations: Egypt, Judah, Edom, and the Ammonites, Moab, and all the inhabitants of the desert who clip their hair of the temple. All these nations are uncircumcised, and the whole house of Israel is uncircumcised in heart. Did y'all see what nation was thrown in there? He lists all these nations and say all of these nations are uncircumcised. Did y'all catch what nation is thrown in there? Judah. Judah's thrown in there. Who was physically circumcised. Like, this is the Jewish nation. They were physically circumcised. And God says, God lumps them in with all the pagan nations and says, you're just like them. I don't care what your body is, what's been done to your body. You're just like them. Why? Because you're uncircumcised in your heart. The physical circumcision that they did was meant to be a symbol of what God has done in their heart. It's like baptism. We had 8 baptisms on Sunday. It's great. Baptism is meant to be a symbolic representation of the salvation that we've experienced, that we are buried with Christ in his death, and that we are raised to new life in his resurrection. It's the symbolic action. If they have not been buried with Christ in his death in their heart, and they've not been given new life by the Spirit inside, the baptism means nothing, right? They're just getting wet, right? The baptism alone is not saving them in that. It's what's going on in the heart. Same thing here. Y'all can be circumcised all day long, is the way he's telling them. Y'all can be circumcised all day long, but if your heart isn't changed, your circumcised means nothing. He goes even further. This is interesting. He compares it to the pagan practices of the day in other areas. So this is verse 26. Egypt, Judah, Edom, the Ammonites, Moab, all the inhabitants of the desert who, did you catch this? Who clip their hair on their temples. Apparently this was a pagan practice of the day in the Arabian area, I believe, where to worship one of their pagan gods of wine, I believe, they would clip the hair of their temples as a sign of worship. And God includes this in here because that would be like, you know, they're clipping their hair with circumcision, clipping, yeah. God is comparing these two things and says, hey, your circumcision of the flesh, yet not of the heart, no different than them clipping their hair for pagan worship in that. It's always been about the heart, always been about the heart, all across the Bible. That's what it is. Okay, it's 7:17. I got enough time. We can do this. Let's do this. Chapter 10. We're gonna steamroll through this, guys, because this is like one big concept, and this concept that's gonna get into is presented multiple times through Jeremiah. So you're gonna hear it again if I don't do a deep dive, but here it is. Okay, Hear the word that the Lord has spoken to you, house of Israel. This is what the Lord says. Do not learn the way of the nations or be terrified by signs in heaven, although the nations are terrified by them. For the customs of the peoples are worthless. Someone cuts down a tree, catch this, someone cuts down a tree from the forest. It is worked by the hands of a craftsman with a chisel. He decorates it with silver and gold. It is fastened with hammer and nail so it won't totter. Like scarecrows in a cucumber patch, their idols cannot speak. What's he describing here? Idolatry, right? They must be carried because they cannot walk. Do not fear them, for they can do no harm, and they cannot do any good. And so he's basically describing the process on how they would create an idol. Like they go cut down a tree, they carve it up, they add silver and gold to it, they prop it up so it looks like it's standing. And he's like, they're just scarecrows, man. Like they're not anything. And what was an idol supposed to be? It was supposed to be a representation of their god, right? It's like you have this pagan god out here who you can't see and can't communicate with, so we're just going to make this idol as an intermediary with that God. And so they would come to the idols to worship God, and God is saying, it's wood. It's like you made it yourself. You know it's wood, right? You made it yourself. Why are you worshiping this? And he's basically telling his people, it's nothing, guys. Like, don't be scared of it. It can't do bad. It can't do evil. It's wood. It can't do anything. He goes on. Actually, this is more of a response to God based on that. Verse 6, Lord, there is no one like you. You are great. So this is like contrasting the worthlessness of the idols with who God is. Lord, there is no one like you. You are great. Your name is great in power. Who should not fear you, King of the nations, is what you deserve, for you are among all the wise people of the nations, and among all their kingdoms, there is no one like you. And so where the idols of the pagan nations are lifeless and man-made, can't do anything, has no breath in them, God, however, is alive and well. As later on, it's going to talk about how God created everything. He is a living God worthy to be praised. Can't get as far further contrast than that. Verse 8, they are both stupid and foolishness, instructed by worthless idols made of wood. Beaten silver is brought up from Tarshish, and gold from Uphaz. The work of a craftsman and of a goldsmith's hands is clothed in blue and purple, all of the work of skilled artisans. Let's stop right there real quick. So again, it gets back into this digression on the worthlessness of idols and how they clothe the idols to make them appear as if they're not dead. I experienced this in Japan when we went a few months ago. We went and visited, so Shintoism is like the prominent religion over there. And there's this Shinto temple that we went and visited. And you have to trek up this mountain. It's like, man, I never climbed so many steps in my life. And there was this guy, I'm just digressing. There was this guy about halfway up that was like, oh, don't worry, man, it's just 10 more minutes. And I think he stands there just to taunt tourists, because it was not 10 minutes of more steps up there. It was 30 minutes. Anyways, you're going up this mountain, and as you're ascending the mountain, at the bottom, you're greeted with two foxes that were made out of stone, and they're facing each other, and one has a scroll and one doesn't. And they have this, I'll get to that in a second. As you keep going, there's more and more places where you can come and pray to and worship the god. I can't remember the name of the god it was, but he was the god of the rice over there. And so as you ascended the mountain, you just saw more and more of these little fox idols out. There was hundreds, if not thousands of them, because there was just so many of these little small memorial places where you could go and pray. And they would do big festivals where everyone comes and ascends the mountain and all that. So we're walking up this mountain, and just over and over again, you just see these foxes, and then you get all the way to the top, and they have the big foxes up there and that. And every single one, no lie, every single one of the thousands of these little idols had these red bibs around them. So it was the only thing that was clothing on them. And it tied around them, and it's this red covering that went over the front. And as I was walking through there, I was just reminded of this passage, because what they would do is they would make these idols, and then they would clothe the idols. So like make them present, presumably like they were alive or something special about them. And that's the same thing that's going on here, that they would put these red kind of bib dresses on these foxes to designate that they were sacred objects. And so I just find it interesting how we haven't changed at all in that. And so God is explaining all this, and all of this is being contrasted against God. Verse 10, but the Lord is the true God. He is the living God and the eternal King. The earth quakes at his wrath, and the nation cannot endure his fury. You are to say this to them: the gods that did not make the heavens and the earth will perish from the earth and from under these heavens. And they contrast it back with God. Verse 12, he, God, made the earth by his power, established the world by his wisdom, and spread out the heavens by his understanding. When he thunders, the waters and the heavens are in turmoil, and he causes the clouds to rise from the ends of the earth. He makes lightning for the rain and brings the wind from his storehouses. So while all of your idols are worthless, lifeless, breathless, you have to dress them up just so people think that they're something that they're not. God, however, made everything. God, however, speaks and the earth quakes. God, however, has full control over the winds and the waves and the rain, and everything that is created is going to perish under the earth, but God is the one who made the earth in this. This is like the ultimate contrast between idols and God, and the worthlessness of idols and the supreme glory of God in that. Verse 14, this is my new favorite verse in the Bible. Are you ready? Everyone is stupid and ignorant. Is Randy still in here? Randy, I want a sign made in our house with Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 14. Everyone is stupid and ignorant. Now, you're probably not going to see that in Hobby Lobby in there. Yeah. Such a good dad, yeah. Everyone is stupid and ignorant. Every goldsmith is put to shame by his carved image, for his cast images are a lie. There is no breath in them. They are worthless, a work to be mocked. At the time of their punishment, they will be destroyed. Jacob's portion, which is referring to God, is not like these, because he is the one who formed all things. Israel is the tribe of his inheritance. The Lord of armies is his name. In short, idols are stupid and worthless, and don't go chasing worthless things that are man-made. Chase God, who makes everything. All right, real quick, just so we can finish the chapter. Verse 17, gather up your belongings. He shifts topics a little bit. Gather up your belongings from the ground, you who live under siege, for this is what the Lord says. Look, I am flinging away the land's residents at this time and bringing them such distress that they will feel it. Verse 19, woe to me, this is Jeremiah speaking, woe to me because of my brokenness. I am severely wounded. I exclaimed, this is my intense suffering, but I must bear it. My tent is destroyed, and all my tent cords are snapped. My sons have departed from me and are no more. I have no one to pitch my tent again or hang up my curtains. For the shepherds are stupid. They did not seek the Lord, therefore they have not prospered, and their whole flock is scattered. Listen, a noise, it is coming, a great commotion from the land to the north. The cities of Judah will be made desolate, a jackal's den. Real quick, this is basically just Jeremiah lamenting the destruction of Jerusalem and the exile that he's even personally feeling on being abandoned by his people. But he makes a statement right there, a great commotion from the land to the north. If you remember, I mentioned Babylon is the one that's going to take over Jerusalem, but Babylon's to the east, not to the north. To the north is actually Assyria. Well, by the time that Babylon takes over, two things are going to happen. One, they're going to take over Assyria, and so Babylon's territory is going to go into the north. And then the way that they would travel along that time, there's this like big gap. I wish I had a map. There's this big gap in between Babylon and Jerusalem, and it's basically just desert, and no one traveled across the desert. They would travel across the river, which is the Euphrates River, kind of made a triangle over it. And so whenever they came to invade Jerusalem, they just followed that path right there on the Euphrates, which puts them north of them and then comes down from the north. So just a thought. If you're reading this and you're like, hold on, they're coming from the north, but Babylon's from the east, I think that's why. That's there. I know, Lord, verse 23, I know, Lord, that a person's way of life is not his own. No one who walks determines his own steps. Discipline me, Lord, but with justice, not in your anger, or you will reduce me to nothing. Pour out your wrath on the nations that don't recognize you and on the families that don't call on your name, for they have consumed Jacob. They have consumed him and finished him off and made his homeland desolate. All right, for time's sake, I'll stop talking right there. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions? I'm using the CSB, the Christian Standard Bible. Oh, yes. Mine likes the word stupid. Yes, the CSB used to be called the HCSB. It used to be called the Holman Christian Standard Bible, but they rebranded it to the Christian Standard Bible. Yeah. Fun fact, the Southern Baptist does not have an official translation, but if they did have an official translation, it would be the CSB, because it's made by Holman Publishers, which is an offshoot of Lifeway, which is an offshoot of the Southern Baptist Convention. It used to be called the Sunday School Board, but then it kind of melded into its own entity off of that. Anyways. Well, what version do you have, just out of curiosity? Senseless. I like stupid, though. Yeah. New International Version, yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions?
I was just going to say this whole theme of deceit is so important, because when we deceive ourselves, it underlies all of our other sins.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. There's going to be some language that Jeremiah uses. I can't remember where it is in Jeremiah, but Paul's going to pick up on that similar language in Romans chapter 1. Paul's going to explain the profoundness of how people reject God and God gives them over to their sin. And the language that he uses is language of they've exchanged the creator for the creation. And some other similar language, and Jeremiah uses that a lot here. And so, yeah, profound levels of sin going on. And even worse, they didn't even realize it. Or at least they're so dense that they're not willing to accept it. Because like you read this and you're like, oh, why do they do all this? Like, and this is like the world that Jesus entered into, like with the Pharisees. The Pharisees operated the same way that's being described here, but they were just so dense and self-deceived that they didn't even realize it, and that they thought they were operating under God. And so if you ever read the prophets and you're ever like, why don't they just stop? Why don't they just realize it's because they're so far gone. This is a whole different topic, but they're hardened in their sin that they don't even realize it.
The other thing is about idols. Idols can't convict you.
Yeah. Idols do what you tell them to do because you made them, right? And that's the whole thing. So we were made in the image of God. That's what we were made as. What idolatry does is you make God in the image of yourself. You reverse the order of it. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions? Cool. Let's get into our prayer and praise. That concludes our